Welcome to another AQA GCSE Elizabethan England video tutorial. In today's video we're going to be asking the question, who was the greatest Elizabethan sea dog? This video follows on from the causes of Tudor exploration expanding under Elizabeth. To start off with, make sure you're able to explain to yourself how these four pictures link to causes of Tudor exploration expanding. Picture 1. Picture 2. Picture 3. And finally, picture 4. In today's tutorial, we're going to be looking at three important case studies of three Elizabethan sea dogs. We'll be focusing on their background, their achievements, and the consequences that they brought about. The three we're going to look at are Sir Francis Drake, Sir Walter Raleigh, and Sir John Hawkins. To do so, I recommend drawing out the following table. I would turn your page sideways and I would make the table a full page. We'll be working our way through Sir Francis Drake first, Sir Walter Raleigh second, and Sir John Hawkins third. Pause the video to make sure you are able to draw out the table before we start the content. The background and upbringing of Sir Francis Drake. Sir Francis Drake started from very humble origins. He was born to a yeoman farmer in 1540. As a strict Puritan, a radical English Protestant who would have rejected Catholic traditions, this had a major influence on his upbringing. Eventually, he made his first voyage with his second cousin, and also sea dog we will look at later, John Hawkins. On the third expedition with his second cousin, his fleet were attacked by Spanish warships in the New World. He survived the attack with John, swimming to safety, but this fleet of ships was all lost bar two. It is said the defeat at San Juan de Ula in 1568 fueled Drake's hostilities towards the Spanish as he sought revenge. Sir Francis Drake's achievements. 4 years after San Juan de Ula, in 1572, Drake managed to capture £40,000 worth of Spanish silver. This led to him being given the nickname El Draca by the Spanish, meaning the dragon. His continued piracy also coincided with one of his greatest achievements. He was the first ever Englishman to circumnavigate the globe. He did so in his boat, the Golden Hind. Whilst doing so in his travel around the world as the second person to do so behind Magellan, he managed to incur riches which would equate to £200 million today. Much of the riches that Drake received, a half share of the money went to Queen Elizabeth, which covered her entire income for a year. Spain demanded punishment. Elizabeth knighted Drake. He would also go on to play a crucial role in the defeat of the Spanish Armada, something we will look at in greater detail in a future tutorial. So what were the consequences of Sir Francis Drake's expeditions? Sir Francis Drake had risen from humble origins to a man of great station. We can see here the Drake Jewel, a gift that was bestowed to him by Elizabeth along with his knighthood. It is also fair to suggest that his achievements would have inspired others to follow suit. Again, it's worth considering the amount of cash flow that this brought in for Elizabeth, solving a problem that had plagued her sister and brother in their years as Tudor monarchs. But perhaps the most important consequence was one of negativity. Drake managed to infuriate and anger the Spanish, leading to greater hostilities between Protestant England and Catholic Spain. Okay, we are now going to look at the life and achievements of Sir Walter Raleigh. Sir Walter Raleigh was born in approximately 1554. He was born to a very well-to-do Protestant family in Devon, and at court, Sir Walter Raleigh rapidly rose to become a favourite of Elizabeth. He is famously said to have laid his cloak over a puddle for the Queen to walk over, perhaps maybe indicating his closeness to the Queen and how he had risen to a position of a favourite. Elizabeth eventually granted him a royal charter to explore new lands in the New World. So what can be said about Sir Walter Raleigh's achievements? Well, certainly we will need to try and separate the myth from the legend. Sir Walter Raleigh is known to have attempted to colonise the New World. This is to set up a new village and claim it in the name of Queen Elizabeth. Virginia was his first attempt in around about 1585, named so after Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen. There were two attempts to create a colony at Virginia, but both of them failed. The first one struggled with food shortages and returned home, and the second colony disappeared without a trace. Sir Walter Raleigh is known to have brought back many resources from the New World: wine, oil, flax, sugar. There are even some suggestions, although this could be an urban myth, that he was the first to bring potatoes and tobacco across to England. Finally, in 1595, he is known to have sought out the mythical city of gold, El Dorado, although this, once more, was unsuccessful. So what can we say of the consequences of Sir Walter Raleigh's efforts? On first appearance, it could be seen as a total failure. The colonies that he set up did not survive, his failure to locate the mythical city of El Dorado. However, we should perhaps consider the long-term consequences of this. It would only be 4 years after Elizabeth's death that the first successful English colony would be set up, known as Jamestown. And you can also suggest that Sir Walter Raleigh encouraged that explorer spirit that led to the empire building. Our final sea dog is Sir John Hawkins. Sir John Hawkins was born in 1532. His father was a merchant, ship owner and sea captain. He was known to be politically ambitious, and it is even suggested that Sir John Hawkins was involved in the marriage alliance between Mary Tudor and Philip of Spain. This is not what he is most known for. His achievements, and I use that word in the loosest sense of the term, is that he is known to be the first English slave trader. In 1562, Sir John Hawkins set off to the west coast of Africa to capture slaves that he would trade in the New World and the West Indies. Over 400 Africans survived the ordeal. He was known to do this on several occasions, and he was even granted a special coat of arms by Elizabeth I. You can even notice in the coat of arms the recognition of slavery at the top of this image. In 1577, he was made the treasurer for the Navy, and he is also known to have greatly improved the ship design using his experiences of being attacked by the Spanish. His ships were known to be larger and yet still more manoeuvrable than any other ship before, and this would greatly assist in the victory of the Spanish Armada. So what were the consequences of Sir John Hawkins's work? Well, let's start with the positive. Militarily, it led to the development of a powerful navy which would dominate the seas well into the 20th century. The grim reality, though, is of the British involvement in the slave trade. So John Hawkins is one of many who will be involved in a torrid history of the transport of Africans across to the New World against their will as part of the slave triangle. There are two final things I would like you to consider in your note-taking on this. Who deserves to be known as the greatest Elizabethan explorer? Should it be Sir Francis Drake, Sir Walter Raleigh, or Sir John Hawkins? This is entirely your opinion, but make sure you're able to explain why you have come to the conclusion of the one you have selected. And finally, should Elizabethan exploration be considered to have contributed to the idea of a golden age? Think about the political, economic, military, but also ethical consequences of Tudor exploration overseen by Elizabeth. Thanks for listening.